Hey guys, I'm back with another 7 Days to Die first day video. This one is for Alpha 18, build 155, which just minutes ago actually went stable. So this is the stable branch. If you've just purchased 7 Days to Die, this is likely the one that you're downloading and installing and playing. If this is anywhere near October 25th or after. So my anticipation is that they'll probably put the game on sale for the Halloween sale on Steam, probably get a lot of new players on Alpha 18. And there's not a lot of information for Alpha 18 on the internet. The wiki I don't believe has been updated, so hopefully this video will be helpful to some of the new players. This is aimed at brand new 7 Days to Die players, so if you're a veteran player, you might find a few things that have changed in Alpha 18 that from the old ones, but for the most part, it's kind of the same stuff on the first day at least. I do think Alpha 18, though, is the best alpha they've released in quite a while, so hopefully everybody is having a good time with it. So from the main menu, I'm just going to select New Game. I have already pre-generated a random world. It takes about 20 minutes, so I did that beforehand. And over here, the one thing from the default settings that I'm going to change for a single player game is I'm going to switch it to not listed, so that it's basically single player. And then I'm going to set everything back to default for the purposes of this video, but I do usually play on harder difficulty, either Nomad or Warrior. Once you've gotten used to the game, I'd definitely suggest turning that up a little bit. Nothing really in here to change, at least for this video, and then multiplayer doesn't apply since I'm playing single player. So the game takes a little while to load in that first time around, every time it's loading in. Because it is a voxel-based world where everything can be changed, it doesn't run the real great all the time. But Alpha 18 seems to be the best that it's ran for me, at least, since I've started playing back in Alpha 11. So you get a little note here, basically says do the quest. You do have some journal entries that kind of explain some things. You can get to all of that by hitting the tab key as the default. It gets you in here, and the buttons across the top. Your crafting menu and your inventory. Here's what you're wearing. Here's your stats. Here is some more stats. Here's your status effects. One I want to put out: when you first spawn in, you have elemental protection. You're temporarily protected from the heat and cold, and that disappears at level 6. Now, level 6 is usually, for most people, going to be 3 or 4 days in. So you've got a couple of days of the weather not really meaning anything to you. And right now, we are well nourished. I think we were at 150 on food and water. We are. So we got an extra buff here, stamina regen, until that goes down below 100, I believe. Here's your journal. Here's your quest, by the way. Map. I just went out of order, didn't I? Map. Skill points. We'll get to those in a minute. Quests. I have one quest right now, just this one up here in the top right. Journal talks about some stuff. This is actually really useful for new players, but I'm going to skip it because I already know all that. And then if you're playing in a group, don't forget to come in here, find the other player, and party up and make them allies so that you guys can share XP, see each other on the map, all that business. That's something we often forget to do when I play with groups. So the first thing that we're going to do is, when you first spawn in, you've got a couple of in-game hours with no enemies around you. You see, no zombies anywhere. I think it used to be that animals could potentially still spawn in, like you could still get a wolf or they added cougars now. But I don't see any. I don't know. I haven't seen any spawn in early game in Alpha 18, so I'm not sure if that's still a thing or not. You'll also notice that my graphics don't look great, especially out a little ways away from me. I turn those way down for shooting these videos, so I'm running like no shadows, no filtering, nothing, half textures. I get great frame rates that way and great performance while I'm shooting the videos, but I do turn them back up again when I'm not shooting the videos. So the first thing it wants me to do is gather up some plant fibers. I'm going to do that, but while I'm doing that, I'm also going to grab some rocks. And if I see a bird's nest, I'm going to loot those. Trash piles, duffel bags, basically anything I see I'm going to loot. I'm going to punch the grass to loot it. Punch these little wooden bushes, that gives me sticks or wood. Okay, and then we're going to craft a bedroll. So I come in here to crafting, it's at the top because it's my quest item. While it's crafting, it's going to take 10 seconds. I'm going to grab a little more of everything. I need quite a little bit of everything anyway. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and put that down. Your bedroll gives you a respawn point, and it also prevents zombies from spawning in a certain distance around it. You saw that with the little white line. It was kind of the border of where it would keep. So if you put a bedroll in your base, zombies won't spawn in your base. So I'm just going to punch this tree for a moment to get a little bit of wood. And we're going to make a stone axe. So 2 wood, 2 plant fibers, 2 stones. Pretty easy to make. Once you can make a stone axe, there's not a lot of point to punching your resources anymore. And the first thing I'm going to do while I'm waiting for my quest to load is I'm just going to go ahead and grab some wood, because we're going to need quite a little bit of wood here. Alright, so the quest wants me to grab a few more plant fibers so that I can make some clothes. Now the funny thing about this is it wants to show you how to make clothes and have you put some clothes on, but the clothes it has you make, plant fiber shirt and pants, don't provide any armor. They only provide heat and cold protection, which we're protected from, immune to, until level 6. So they're pretty pointless, but it's good to teach people, I guess. Now, while we're going through this quest, let's talk about spawn locations. I spawned into a burnt forest biome, which is an okay spawn. My personal preference would be a desert biome is the best biome, because the only downside to a desert really is the heat, and we're protected from the heat anyway. It's got tons of resources. It's got yucca juice, which is a easy early game water source basically. Pine forest, temperate forest is fine, except that it has been, so far for me at least, full of wolves and aggressive animals. And so it's, you don't have the weather, you have a lot of wood, you have a lot of resources, but there are some aggressive animals there, and I'd rather have the desert, definitely, and I'd almost rather take the snow. The snow is, again, the major downside is the cold, but the cold's not really a problem in the first 6 levels. And then the fact that the zombies are really, they take a lot of hits to kill them. So I'm going to just scrap that note because it's not worth anything. I'm going to move that land claim block off my toolbar. I don't need any of that stuff. I always put my bandages in the same spot on my bar. Do keep your bandage there because you're going to need it. When you need it fast. And then Burnt Forest isn't bad, and I'm going to show you guys why I don't think it's really bad, but the only downside of Burnt Forest is there seems to be a lot of vultures. You can get some vultures in the desert as well, but and then the last place that you could spawn is Wasteland, and honestly, if you're brand new to the game, I would just end that game and try it again, try a different map. If you just start again on the same map with the same game name and the same profile, it just spawns you back into the same spot exactly, so you have to change something. I haven't tinkered around with it to figure out which of those 3 things affects your spawn point, but maybe just make a new map or pick a different profile or something and try to get into a spawn point that's not Wasteland. There's no benefit to the Wasteland, and you'll most likely die and start the game in a hole. So One change from earlier alphas is that the bow and arrow is now a primitive bow, the first one that you can make. The regular bow has moved up to tier 2, and this primitive bow is kind of garbage, so we're not going to use it a lot. Also, it had me make a wooden club, but really, the melee weapon that you want to start out with is the spear, especially if you're new to the game and you're not used to the way the melee works in the game. Because the melee system is honestly, it's not great. It's the hit detection is bad, the hit boxes are bad, the ranges don't match up with the visuals at all. It's really very hard to use. The spear is the best option out of those. So I'm gonna use the spear, and once we start seeing some zombies here, I'll show you guys how to use it. For a new player, I would honestly recommend. Oh, potato seeds. We'll keep those. We'll scrap that lead. I'll talk a little bit more here when we're starting to move down the road about what we want to keep and what we don't. But for a new player, I would make 2 stone spears, 1 to throw, and then 1 as a backup. Reduce chance to be lit on fire by 25%. That's not bad. Some cloth. So these little broken down houses, bits of houses. This is why the burnt forest isn't such a bad place to spawn, because they actually have a ton of loot in them, and there's no zombies. And you can harvest these curtains, for example. I'm going to break this block to get up here onto the 2nd level, because there's usually something useful up here on the 2nd level for most of these. Yep. Water bottle cooler, nothing in it. Mattress gives me a little cloth. Cloth is useful for making bandages. You're going to need a bunch. Vitamins are helpful for eating food without getting food poisoning. And we need to make... Let's see, we got our wooden block. We need to just put our wooden block down and upgrade it with the right click on the stone axe. For that quest to load. I'm just gonna come over here and harvest this couch. Duct tape is the #1 thing I think that I would want to find and loot. Oh, and I stood on the fire. If you are set on fire, you can drink water to put yourself out, like the little tooltip suggested there. I didn't stay on fire long enough to bother. 4 bites of painkiller, that's all good stuff. Alright, so we're going to do the campfire. Okay, and that completes our basic quest. And as a reward, they give you 4 skill points. So you only get 1 skill point per level up. So 4 skill points is kind of a lot. And some people like... I'm not going to talk too much about the skill trees because that could be its own video and other people have made videos about that. But some people like to go all deep into one tree. I don't, not at the beginning of the game at least. I think there are a couple of talents or abilities that are great one-pointers and make the early game and even later in the game a lot easier. And so I'm just going to throw those points into those talents that are what I consider must-haves. And my first one is Lucky Looter. This alpha, looting is so important. You can get pretty much everything in the game from loot, almost everything in the game from loot. And usually faster than you can craft it. So I'm going to get a point in Lucky Looter so that my looting adds 10 to the loot bonus for containers. So you get a little bit better loot. Now the other good points as far as I'm concerned are in the strength tree. Pack Mule allows you to carry 3 more items without being encumbered. You'll get pocket mods a little later in the game that will open up those spots anyway for you, but it's really hard. You'll have to take up mod spots to put those pockets onto your armor. And basically, I think this point is pretty well spent all the way through the game, so that you don't have to use up every mod spot using pockets or storage slots. Miner 69er allows you to craft quality 2 pour tools, and that's including your stone tools, and it lets you make iron tools once you get a forge, or you get some forged iron. I think that's just super useful. So I'm going to pick that up so that I can make quality 2 pour stone tools here at the beginning, and then hopefully be able to turn out some forged tools pretty quick. That one's definitely a little more questionable than the other two. You could live without any of these. You don't have to take any of these, but... And then the other one I'm going to take is Master Chef, and just 1 point in the Master Chef is really all I need, because I want to learn bacon and eggs, grilled meat, and tea, because those are all recipes I'm going to want to make really early in the game, like the first day or two, and I don't want to have to go and find the schematics and loot, because who knows how many days that would take. But tea in particular is useful because it has bonuses that regular water doesn't, and it does not have the ability to cause dysentery. So, alright, so after you finish your quest, and you... Oh, let me show you guys one more talent that is kind of... 2 more talents, really. Healing Factor is a great one-pointer. It just lets you heal without having to use a healing item. I usually don't take it because I think bandages are super easy to make in this alpha, but it is still a pretty good one-pointer. And then Advanced Engineering. This will let you make a forge. So if I don't find the forge recipe in the first day, by the time I get basically my next point, this will probably be my next, where I put my next point, so I can make a forge and start making iron tools right away. Greasemonkey is not a one-pointer. It requires level 2 intellect, so it's basically 2 points, because 1 point into intellect and then 1 point into Greasemonkey. But it'll let you make a bicycle, and that's a real game changer. The only thing is you got to be able to find some wheels, and probably have a wrench to get some parts and stuff like that. So it's kind of like my goal for like day 3 or 4, or maybe 5, depending on how unlucky I've been. And once the quest is finished, it tells you, here's your trader, so I can orient my map to point myself at the trader. And it's a ways away. 1.7 kilometers is kind of a long walk, but it's totally doable. It's only noon, and the zombies don't start running until 2200. So what I'm going to do, I've got a Wasteland City back here, and I'm going to remember that for later. I might need, or not Wasteland City, I'm sorry, Burnt Forest City. I might need to come back here and loot that at some point. But I can see off in the distance, I can use my bow to kind of zoom in. You can see a forest. And another town from the looks of it. It looks like a bunch of buildings from a town. So I'm going to go ahead and head towards the trader with a thought that I can probably find shelter in that direction. I know I can find shelter at least there in this town. Probably find shelter out by the trader. So, and these little gore piles that you find along the road, I'm going to scrap this and make a new one, because I can now make level 2 tools. Okay. These little gore piles that you find along the road, you want to harvest all of these that you find for bones mainly. And you're going to take your first 5 bones and make a bone knife, and then you're going to use the bone knife, not as a weapon, because it's kind of garbage as a weapon. And you use the bone knife to do any harvesting of future animals or corpses or piles. Running shoes, well, we're going to wear them. Just heat and cold resist, again, doesn't do anything for me, but I'll just wear them so they don't take up an inventory spot. Seeds this early in the game really aren't that useful, but it's nice if I have the inventory spot to take them with me and leave them somewhere where I know where to find them later on. I will say a lot of things that aren't useful early in the game, but if you have the empty inventory spots, you might take them with you anyway, just to be able to put them somewhere in a box somewhere where you know where to go look for them later on. Cars, always loot the cars. Oil's really not useful. That's one of those things that it's going to be the first thing to go out of my inventory whenever I run out of space. It's not useful early in the game at all. And you notice I'm picking up rocks as I go. If I see a bird's nest, I'm definitely going to loot the bird's nest. I should start seeing zombies here any moment now, because I'm getting a little ways away from where I spawned in, and it's a little later in the day. The gore pile, so now we're going to use our bone knife. So the bones are super important because they are used to make glue, and glue is used to make duct tape, and duct tape is the thing that you are going to be short on for your first week or two in this game. Because it's used for everything. So one other thing I'm going to go ahead and grab before I forget. Well, you know what? I'll grab it later on when I'm getting closer to the trader, but I am going to want to have some cotton, some cotton to make cloth, red chrysanthemum to make red tea. I'm going to scrap these nails because I don't need nails right away. And this guy here is going to be a good opportunity to show you the spear. Right click and hold, does a power attack. You can run up there and pull it right back. Well, and if you happen to miss, that's why I keep my club on my toolbar. So, like I said, the melee is really wonky in this game, and after 1,000 hours, I've kind of got it down for the most part, although every alpha changes it a little bit. So, but you eventually get the feel for, like, this is how far they can actually reach, and this is how far you can actually reach, and this is when they're going to swing. They did add one ability in this alpha that kind of threw me for a loop, where when the zombies take damage, they have a chance to go into rage mode and move extra fast towards you, so you kind of got to watch out for that. And what I love about the spear is that the power attack move where you throw the spear, although you do have the chance of losing it like I did there when I threw it over the guy's shoulder, it has a really high damage and it has a really high chance to stagger or knock them down. So they usually won't just shrug that off, and it's a good way to kind of slow them down and stop them while they're coming after you, especially if they're in rage mode. I'm always going to grab bird's nests because bird's nests are a little more rare in this alpha than they have been in the past. A lot of what I'm grabbing here is mostly just to sell to the trader for a little bit of extra coin in case I actually want to buy anything from him when I get there. Duct tape is super useful. Brass casings really aren't very useful early in the game until I have a weapon and a forge going and a workbench. But I'm going to take them anyway, and hopefully they'll sell for something to the trader. And if I run out of space, I can scrap them and add them to my brass pile. So one thing to keep an eye out for once you get into the pine forest is wolves. You don't get a lot of them in town, but you definitely can. And they are very sneaky. They have a tendency to kind of run up on you. Let's show you guys the bow and arrow here, just one shot real quick. I zoomed in, and it's fine. It works basically like the old bow and arrow did. One thing to keep in mind is it doesn't unzoom you, even when you run out of ammo. So you have to unzoom yourself before you can switch weapons. The problem with the new primitive bow and arrow is that it just doesn't do much damage, and if you're not zoomed in, it's just not accurate at all. And zooming in is kind of a pain. Iron shovel's a great find. I'm gonna scrap that candy tin. So I like to alternate my power attack and my regular attack, because a lot of times you'll be just on the threshold of knocking them down from your power attack. Some interesting buildings here. I don't know if I've ever seen this one before. I skipped Alpha 17 because I didn't skip it completely. I played it for a couple of days and decided it really wasn't a very good alpha. And so any POIs that they added in Alpha 17 or Alpha 18 are probably new to me, which is great. Because once you've gotten this many hours into the game, new POIs are a treat. I'm not going to stop to fight every single one of these zombies. I do feel, and during the daytime, I get a little comfortable letting them get real close to me while I'm looting stuff, especially while my stamina is high. And if I was sure of where my base was going to be, where I was going to spend the night, and how far my trader was, I would definitely stop and fight more of the zombies because it's a fast way to level up. So the road stops there and it does not keep going, so I'm going to go cross country here, and we may get a chance to see one of those wolves. It's a little dangerous to go cross country just because there's a higher chance of running into wildlife. But since I don't know how much, there'll definitely be a road. There's a rabbit. There'll be a road running to the trader, but we don't know how far out of the way that road might take me. So instead, I'm just going to go across here. There's a bear right there, and I am going to steer well clear of him. Because I cannot take him on. Also, you'll notice I try not to let my stamina fall all the way to 0. I'm actually going to go around this water, I think. Ideally, I'd like to keep about 20 stamina in my bar in case I have the need to sprint away from something. And occasionally I slow down so I don't make so much noise, so I can listen around me if I hear anything. Which actually brings me to another point. One of the things I recommend for a new player is go in here to options, go to your audio, turn off the dynamic music. The dynamic music is, I think, bad, and at best it covers up the sound of enemies approaching. At worst, it actually makes noises that sound like snakes and zombies and stuff like that, and it freaks me out all the time when there's nothing around me, and it also trains me to ignore those noises, which is not great. So I play with it off all the time. Your mileage might vary, of course, but at least on your first go-round, I would suggest turning it off, and I think you'll find the game's a little easier to deal with if you can clearly hear things coming at you. I got myself turned around just a little bit, running the wrong way. Now, one thing to keep an eye out for in the loot, of course, food and water. We always want food and water, but we want acid. I made a mistake on my first playthrough of Alpha 18 to leave acid on the piles thinking that it wasn't going to be useful for me until late game, and it turns out acid is used to make the wheels for the bicycle. And in older alphas, finding wheels was no problem. You just wrenched a bunch of cars and found wheels. Well, I wrenched like 50 cars and found 0 wheels, and so it became apparent to me that I was going to have to find acid and make the wheels myself. And then I couldn't remember where I'd left all that acid, so it took me an extra 3 or 4 days to find enough acid to make the wheels. Also, you can sometimes buy the acid from the trader. And if I see acid, I might buy some. Now, this guy wouldn't be able to follow me into the trader, but I'm going to kill him so that I don't have to hear him bang on the walls. You guys can see some of these really look like they probably should have been at least a glancing blow, and they just don't register at all. Alright, so we got to the trader, still only 1,500, I've still got plenty of time left in my day. First thing we're going to do is, this is kind of an open trader, he doesn't have much loot here, but we're going to check out his workstations. Destroyed forge, can't use that. Got a bunch of broken glass. Not sure if I can sell broken glass for any money. Anvil is a great find though. We'll Gladly take that anvil. I'll actually probably keep that anvil. You see the zombie out there, he can't actually damage anything. Small stone is not a bad find. He's got a working workbench. We're going to want to make a note of that because we can come here to do workbench stuff. Working campfire. Oh. And here's his chem station, which is also not working. Always check out these destroyed workstations. They added a 25% chance for them to contain the schematics to make that workstation. If I'd found the schematic for the forge, I wouldn't need to spend the point unlocking it in intellect. Now also, when you come in here, talk to the trader to complete my quest. I'm gonna go ahead and see if he'll buy any of this. He won't buy the broken glass. He's not going to pay much money for any of it. Well, I'm going to sell off the paper because I really don't need the paper. I'll sell him a little bit of the coal. Boy, I am not making any money off of any of this. He won't buy very much of any of that, so how about the oil? There we go. So he bought the oil, and I don't need oil for a long time, so... That's not a good price for nitrate. Nitrate's hard enough to find. I don't want to sell it for that. Can't sell him clay. Alright. I'm just going to drop that glass so I'm not encumbered.
Thank you, survivor. Check back soon. I get new merchandise.
And sometimes these traders have stuff behind them that you can loot. So here's a bookcase with a silencer mod in it, a schematic. So that's a pretty good find. I'm happy with that. Alright, so the trader is a safe area. Obviously that zombie can't get in. However, he closes about a half an hour before the zombies start running. And at that time they kick you out, and they just spawn you out here. And you don't want to be left out here in the middle of the night, so... Instead, we're going to go and find ourselves some shelter. And I've got quite a little bit of time left here, so I'm going to... On my first day, my goal is complete the quests, get the skill points, complete the quest to find the trader if I can make it there. Now, if the trader is into a wasteland zone or across a wasteland zone, I might leave it for day 2 or 3. But it's nice to get it done. And then... After that, my next goal is to find a safe place to spend the night, get that set up, and then if I have time, I might grab some resources and stuff so that I have things that I can work on at night while I'm stuck inside the house. So this is a ranger station, POI. I happen to know these ranger stations. They've been in the game for as long as I've been playing. It was my very first base way back in Alpha 11, was in a ranger station, and they don't usually have any either no zombies or like 1 or 2 zombies tops. So I'm gonna run around the outside, make sure there's no zombies sleeping on the porch. See that guy out there? I'm gonna pick up all these chairs and I'm gonna scrap those down to lumber. And before I go inside, I'm gonna check out the roof. Sometimes there's a bird's nest up here. Not today. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and just... I think I'll just break in this door. If there's any zombie right on the other side of it, this will likely wake him up. These little piles here, they make noise when you walk on them, by the way. You can destroy them, and then they don't make noise. I don't usually bother unless I'm going to be here for a while, but I might actually be here for a while, so I'm going to try to make this place a little nice. And the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to make myself a secure wooden door. Get rid of that glass. And I'm going to upgrade it. This won't stop zombies from getting in for more than a couple seconds, but at least it'll give me a warning. I'll hear them pounding on everything. Still no zombies. Likely that this place doesn't have any zombies at all. Could be one in this room right here, so I'll just open it up and check it out. Tell you what you don't want is you don't want to find out there's a zombie in your base after dark. So cowboy boots actually have some armor rating, and you can see by all the gray numbers they're better than what I'm wearing. So I'm going to wear those, and then I'm going to scrap these shoes. I'm also going to scrap those chairs. Got everything in here. Paper. Paper, I'll come back for paper later. I don't need paper right now. And I happen to know behind this door is pretty much never a zombie. If there was, he would have just woken up right there. I hear a zombie outside, though. But there is a gun safe back there, so if I had lockpicks, I would break in that room and open that gun safe and probably get something really good out of it. Okay, that's a lot of wood. That's not bad. I don't think I picked up any lockpicks. Nope, I sure haven't. And I can hear a zombie outside. I'm going to go and take care of him before he starts banging on stuff. I really don't want him busting a hole in my wall that I have to repair. So you can see here, like, the range on this spear is ridiculous. He's just gonna break my door no matter what. It hits the zombies a lot further away than it looks like the animation should. So you gotta get used to that, but once you get used to it, it's pretty awesome because you can actually hit them. It's the only melee weapon that you can hit them farther away than they can hit you. These couches are really good to break down because they give you leather. And leather, along with duct tape, is one of the early game things that pretty much everything uses. Hobo stew recipe, that's a good find. Vegetable stew recipe is a great find. That's like one of the best ones to find. Because once you start farming, vegetable stew is one of the easiest ones to make. Unfortunately, no cooking pot. So if I don't have a cooking pot, I can't really do much as far as cooking tonight. I don't have a grill and I don't have any meat, so... this guy... he's gonna be hard to hit. Oh. You always want to have a backup plan in case that spear misses, and those guys that twitch a lot, they're easy to miss. I'm going to check out what's over here before we call ourselves done for the day. Trash. I'll come back for that oil later on. I'm probably going to come back over here and loot everything tomorrow morning. So the way I see Alpha 18 is that looting is king in Alpha 18, basically. Your crafting is fine, but there's so much loot, and it's such good loot, especially once you take the Lucky Looter skill. If I run around looting stuff, I can probably loot better stuff faster than I can crafting. So, some sort of weird castle looking thing over there. I'm definitely Interested in finding out what that is. Might be a church. I know there's a new church POI. Point of interest, by the way, is what POI means. And this looks like a couple of stores. They probably got some pretty good loot in them. Zombies start running at 2200. These guys in the suits, they're the headshot. They're the easiest ones to kill because they move extra slow. I'm just kind of keeping an eye out around me here. Whoop. Yeah, those closets, they often... So you guys can see that spear is pretty awesome. Lots and lots of chairs here. I'll grab those for the wood because I'm going to use a lot of wood to upgrade my base overnight. I'm going to hope one of these cabinets has some food in it, and it does. I'm not desperately in need of food right now, but I will be shortly. Ammo pile. I'm always going to take ammo. I'm never going to leave ammo behind, especially on those piles because they disappear. And then all these paintings, I always want to break those paintings because sometimes they have loot hidden behind them. I'm keeping an eye on my time. These closet doors are almost always traps. Take that stuff even though I don't really need any of it right at the moment. But I know that pile is going to disappear. So that takes me up to the roof. And this takes me maybe over to the next building. If you get to bleeding, you want to go ahead and use your bandage right away. It will stop the bleeding. And basically I got in trouble there because I took on 2 of them in a confined space with nothing but my melee weapon. I wasn't too worried, but it was definitely a risky move. I'm always careful up here on these catwalks because at least some of these boards will probably drop you back down when you walk on them. Plus I don't even see any stash of loot here. Well, that was pretty disappointing and totally not worth it. Alright, so I'm running out of time to do anything before the zombies start running. And again, the zombies running, I mean, being outside at night is not instant death for sure. Like, you could totally probably sneak your way back to the base or just sneak your way around. But they are quite a little bit harder to deal with when they're running and you can't see as well. So, rather than running that risk of dying, I'm going to head back to the base. Plus, I also remembered just now that I forgot to set my sleeping bag here at the base. So I'm going to grab a little bit of grass, make sure I have plenty to make a sleeping bag. I want to set my sleeping bag here so that if something bad happens to me while I'm looting... I don't respawn clear across the map. So that guy went into rage mode right away. And I used the power attack to stop him from rushing me down, basically. My spear is almost out of durability, though, so I'm gonna have to repair that overnight here. Alright guys, so it's about to get dark and I'm well over my endurance limit here. So I'm going to clean out my inventory overnight, throw a bunch of stuff in boxes that we don't need here anymore. Could have put some stuff on my toolbox. Oh, I'm gonna make some new bandages. Always got to have bandages. Always got to remember to put down that bedroll. And that's basically how I'm going to spend my night. Sorting this loot into boxes, making sure I don't carry anything I don't need. Probably run back to the trader and go ahead and pick up a quest, because he's probably got something in this area for me to go do. And make some bandages, repair all my stuff, and be ready to go out for day 2. And as soon as I start seeing my stamina, or my health, well, my stamina, drop down, then I'm going to go and check out my food and my water situation. Once they get down to around 80% or so, I usually go ahead and drink or eat, whichever one I need. But anyway guys, hopefully you guys found that video to be somewhat informative if you're brand new to the game on what you're supposed to be doing on that first day. Kind of, there's not a lot of tutorial to this game. I'm going to put my torch up so I can see. It used to be you didn't want to use torches. You'll still see people say that on the forum, that you don't want to use torches because they generate a lot of heat and zombies will show up to eat you. They actually fixed that in this latest build, so where torches now generate almost no heat, so it's fine to go ahead and throw them down, use them. So, alrighty guys, there's nighttime, and if you guys have any tips for new players, brand new players to the series, leave them in the comments below. Hopefully some people will get a benefit out of those. Thanks for watching.